Somewhere on the Red Sea coast of Saudi Arabia, a tower is rising. Floor by floor, faster than almost any skyscraper in history, one new floor every 3 to 4 days as of 2026. By August 2028, it is scheduled to be the tallest structure human beings have ever built, over a kilometer into the sky. Taller than the Burj Khalifa by more than 170 meters. It will have a Four Seasons hotel inside it, apartments, offices, an observation deck at 630 meters, a cantilevering steel balcony suspended higher above the ground than any occupied floor in any building currently standing on Earth. And beneath all of that, holding up every floor being poured right now, is concrete that spent 5 years exposed to Red Sea salt air, 45-degree summer heat, and coastal humidity. The most corrosive environment on the planet for reinforced concrete. Sitting there, unprotected, for 5 years. Nobody building on top of it has said publicly what those 5 years did to the structure underneath. That is what this video is about. In 2008, Saudi billionaire Prince Al-Walid bin Talal announced a tower that would do something no building had ever done: break the 1-kilometer mark. The Burj Khalifa, completed in Dubai 2 years later, topped out at 828 meters. Jeddah Tower, initially called Kingdom Tower, was designed from the start to exceed it by enough of a margin that no competitor could simply add a few floors and steal the record. The architect was Adrian Smith, the same man who designed the Burj Khalifa. His firm gave the tower a 3-petal footprint, a tapered aerodynamic profile that narrows as it rises to handle wind loads at extreme altitude, and a design that would eventually include 167 floors, 57 elevators, a sky terrace observatory, and that cantilevering observation balcony at roughly 600 meters, a 30-meter steel platform hanging in open air over the Red Sea. The location chosen was the Red Sea coastline north of Jeddah, as the centerpiece of a planned waterfront district called Jeddah Economic City, a new urban development that would grow around the tower over time. Construction began in April 2013. The foundation system, designed by structural engineering firm Thornton Tomasetti, was one of the most demanding ever built. A 5-meter-thick reinforced concrete raft foundation, over 7,500 square meters in area, anchored by 270 deep board piles driven between 40 and 47 meters into the ground to transfer the tower's enormous load through weak coastal soil into stable material below. By 2017, the structural concrete was rising steadily. The tower had reached the 37th floor and was described as on track for completion. Reports from that period called the project well past its early challenges and into a smooth construction phase. Then, in November 2017, everything stopped. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman launched what became known as the anti-corruption purge. 11 Saudi princes and dozens of senior business figures were detained, including Prince Al-Walid bin Talal himself, the tower's primary financial backer, and senior figures at the Saudi Bin Laden Group, the project's main contractor. The detained men were eventually released after paying what were reported as substantial financial settlements. Construction continued for a short period after the arrests. Then, in January 2018, with the tower standing at roughly 1/3 of its planned height, around 50 to 63 floors of a structure designed to reach 167, all structural concrete work stopped. No official explanation, no revised timeline. The cranes went quiet. When construction halted, the tower had progressed to level 50 out of 157, with the piling and foundational works already completed. Then COVID-19 further delayed any restart plans. The tower sat there, on the coast of the Red Sea. Bare reinforced concrete columns and core walls, no cladding, no glazing, no weatherproofing. For 5 years. In September 2023, a new request for proposals was issued for completion of the project. In January 2025, a ceremony was held on site, and the Jeddah Economic Company announced construction had resumed, with a new target completion date of 2028. As of April 2026, construction has surpassed the 100th floor. Roughly 40 to 50 new floors have been added on top of the structure that spent 5 years exposed. This is here most coverage of Jeddah Tower stops being curious. The story gets treated as a saga of delays and drama. The arrests, the political intrigue, the long pause, the comeback. And the comeback is genuinely impressive. The tower is currently adding a floor every 3 to 4 days, cranes working continuously, concrete pumped through high-pressure systems to new heights. But there is a separate question that the restart celebration did not answer, and the speed of the current construction does not address. What happened to the concrete during those 5 years? Jeddah's coastal climate is not incidental to this question. It is the entire point. The combination of Gulf humidity, salt-laden air blowing in from the Red Sea, and summer temperatures that regularly exceed 40 degrees Celsius is one of the most aggressive environments for reinforced concrete anywhere in the world. Engineers who work in this region know this. It is why specialized concrete mixes, increased cover depth over the rebar, and corrosion inhibitors are standard practice on coastal construction in the Gulf. And those same precautions were documented as part of the Jeddah Tower's own design specifications. The specific threat in this environment is chloride-induced corrosion. When salt moisture penetrates concrete and reaches the steel reinforcement inside, chloride ions attack the protective oxide layer that forms naturally around the steel. The steel begins to corrode. Corroding steel expands, sometimes to several times its original volume. That expansion generates pressure from the inside, cracking the concrete outward. New cracks let in more moisture. More moisture reaches more steel. The process compounds itself, and in coastal Gulf conditions, it moves faster than in almost any other environment. There is a further detail that makes the Jeddah situation specifically concerning. Concrete is most chemically active and most porous in the early years after it is poured. The curing process continues for years, and during that period the material is at its most vulnerable to external penetration. The lower floors of Jeddah Tower, the floors that sat exposed, were poured between 2013 and 2018. That means the concrete that spent 5 years exposed to Red Sea salt air was doing so during exactly the window when it was newest, most reactive and most permeable to chloride migration. This is not a fringe engineering concern. It is not speculation. It is the documented, well-understood reason why structures built in this environment require ongoing protection from the moment the concrete is placed. Jeddah Tower's lower structure was designed to receive that protection in the form of its cladding and building envelope. For 5 years, that protection was absent. Before new floors can responsibly go on top of existing structure after a pause of this length, especially in this environment, engineers need to assess what they are building on. A proper structural assessment in this situation would include visual inspection of all exposed surfaces for cracking, spalling, or discoloration. Core samples drilled from representative columns and walls to measure chloride penetration depth, that is, how far into the concrete salt has migrated toward the rebar. Carbonation testing to determine how far the chemical process that reduces concrete's protective capacity has progressed from the surface inward. And a review of whether the original design load assumptions still apply to the as-found condition of the concrete, including whether any remediation, sealing, additional protective coatings, corrosion-inhibiting treatments, was required before new weight was added on top. None of this is exotic. It is what responsible structural practice requires before resuming construction on 60-plus floors of exposed concrete in a coastal Gulf environment. CNN's reporting on the construction resumption specifically noted that Kingdom Holding Company did not respond to requests for confirmation that the design and building specifications had remained unchanged throughout the hiatus. That is a notably precise non-answer. The question was not even about the concrete's condition. It was about whether the specifications had changed at all, and even that went unanswered. Neither the Jeddah Economic Company, nor Kingdom Holding, nor the project's structural engineers have published anything about what the condition of the lower floors was when work resumed in January 2025. No structural assessment findings, no remediation report, no engineering statement of any kind confirming the existing structure was evaluated and found adequate before new floors were added on top. Compare that to other troubled skyscraper projects. The Millennium Tower in San Francisco generated years of public engineering reports, lawsuits, regulatory scrutiny, and a documented remediation program. 432 Park Avenue's structural issues became a matter of public record through legal proceedings. Even projects where the public accounting came late, came incomplete, or came only after pressure, it still came. Jeddah Tower has generated none of that, not because nothing happened during those 5 years. Chloride penetration does not pause for funding gaps or political detentions, but because the project has not been asked the right question in a context where the answer could not simply go unanswered. By 2028, if the current schedule holds, Jeddah Tower will be the tallest structure human beings have ever built. It will house a Four Seasons hotel, apartments, offices, and an observation deck at 630 and 638 meters, higher than any publicly accessible floor in any building currently standing. The people who book rooms in that hotel, who work in those offices, who stand on that observation balcony and look out over the Red Sea, they will be standing on top of something specific. More than 60 floors of reinforced concrete poured between 2013 and 2018, exposed without protection to Red Sea heat, humidity, and salt air for 5 years, during the period when that concrete was newest and most vulnerable. And then built over with 40 to 50 more floors, without any public disclosure of what the inspection found. They will not know that, and there is no obvious reason they should. Most people who stay in a hotel do not think about the chloride penetration depth of the structural columns, 12 floors below their room. But somewhere, an engineer knows. Someone ran those core samples. Someone reviewed the visual inspection reports. Someone signed off on the structural adequacy of the existing concrete before new loads were placed on top of it. That engineer has the information. It just has not been shared with anyone outside the project. The tower will almost certainly be completed. It will almost certainly open. It will almost certainly be celebrated globally as a landmark achievement, and in many respects it genuinely is one. The scale of engineering involved in building anything a kilometer tall is extraordinary by any measure, but there is a 5-year window buried in the lower third of that structure that has no public accounting. Not a paragraph, not a statement, not a figure. Just 5 years that the Red Sea coast got access to the newest, most porous concrete in the world's most ambitious building, and a decision to start stacking more floors on top without telling anyone what they found when they looked. The question worth asking is not whether the tower will stand. It probably will. The question is why that answer, whatever it is, has not been made available to the people whose safety depends on it being correct. If this made you look at the next skyscraper record announcement differently, share it with someone who should see it.